Hello, everyone. Last week there was a major pledge by world leaders um, called the Declaration on Forest and Land Use on November 2nd, 2021. I read that 12 billion for forest related climate finance would be released between 2021 and 2025, and there would be a commitment to official ending of deforestation by 2030. And a quote from the Global Forest Finance Pledge article on the COP26 platform is: more ambitious action on nature is key for the shift towards the low carbon and climate resilient future we want. Through enhanced collaboration to halt and reverse forest loss and land degradation by 2030, we are minimizing the dangerous economic and social impacts that climate change will bring. Success in protecting, restoring, and sustainably managing forests is also critical for protecting people and livelihoods, preserving critical ecosystems, and halting and reversing biodiversity loss. End quote. And this seems to continue on with the sustainable development mindset because of the use of sustainability, livelihoods, economic impacts, and that has problems. The ideology of sustainable development does have problems on its own, and that could be a separate video. And then, quote, we also recognize that forest countries need access to significant, predictable flows of both public and private finance to deliver on this ambition and to help them tackle the systematic drivers of forest loss. So that's a good sign that countries are contributing to making contributions to protect forests. However, this hasn't been done in other commitments. There was the $100 billion to the global south hasn't been delivered in full. So hopefully this is not one of those where they promise money and don't deliver. Yes, and we will promote the full, effective, and willing participation of Indigenous peoples and local communities in programs that protect and restore forest, reduce deforestation and forest degradation, and ensure that benefits reach smallholders and local communities. And benefits do have to. The people living in these areas that have deforestation have to benefit. There's also a risk of colonialism if we impose environmental restrictions without the involvement, consent of Indigenous peoples, and that is a huge topic on itself. Fairy Creek might be one example to dive deeper into. There's over 130 countries that have signed on to this pledge to end deforestation. So that's a good sign. And then I found the text of the Glasgow Leaders Declaration on Forest and Land Use. The leaders recognize the importance of biodiversity and sustainable land use in meeting sustainable development goals. And then it says, quote, we therefore commit to working collectively to halt and reverse forest loss and land degradation by 2030, while delivering sustainable development and promoting an inclusive rural transformation. And, quote, we will strengthen our shared efforts to conserve forest and other territorial ecosystems and accelerate their restoration, facilitate trade and development policies internationally and domestically that promote sustainable development and sustainable commodity production and consumption that work to countries' mutual benefit and do not drive deforestation and land degradation. 3. Reduce vulnerability, build resilience, and enhance rural livelihoods, including through empowering communities, the development of profitable, sustainable agriculture, and recognition of the multiple values of forest, while recognizing the rights of Indigenous people as well as local communities in accordance with relevant national legislation and international instruments as appropriate. Implement and, if necessary, redesign agricultural policies and programs to incentivize sustainable agriculture, promote food security, and benefit the environment. Reaffirm international financial commitments and significantly increase finance and investment from a wide variety of public and private sources, while also improving its effectiveness and accessibility to enable sustainable agriculture, sustainable forest management, forest conservation and restoration, and support for Indigenous peoples and local communities. And 6. Facilitate the alignment of financial flows with international goals to reverse forest loss and degradation, while ensuring robust policies and systems are in place to accelerate transition to an economy that is resilient and advances forest sustainable land use, biodiversity, and climate goals. And yeah, Canada has not met the biodiversity goals, and it has work to do itself, especially in forest management. There was a report, I think it was last year or the year before, that pointed out that Ontario hasn't increased protection, hasn't increased parks or protected areas significantly at all. And it also matters where protected areas are located. If they're located far away from more dense populations, that can be problematic as well. And there's also a risk of fortress conservation, where the local population has no say in how the land is protected or managed at all. And then 2030 is 9 years away, and many governments that sign the pledge might be defeated in elections. And like one of the signatories, I think it was Indonesia. They're backtracking on this pledge already about the deforestation agreement is unfair. So it's problematic finding in that sense that there doesn't seem to be agreement with all nations. An article in Mugabe called Behind the Grand Declarations at COP26, a long track record of failure, on November 5th, 2021, pointed to past agreement which failed. Quote, the declaration is meant to be a planetary reset after 2014's New York Declaration on Forest, where 39 countries promised to halve deforestation by 2020, and almost entirely failed to meet its objectives. Instead, deforestation rose by 20% among its signatories between 2016 and 2020. And another quote is, there are no yearly targets or commitments by signatories to transparently report on their progress. Nor is there mention of penalizing companies that illegally clear forests to make way for plantations and cattle ranches. Most of the language is vague, with signatories promising to redesign agricultural policies and promote sustainable commodity production, without specifying what those policies will look like and how they will be enforced. And because it was signed outside of the UNFCCC framework and is non-binding, there will be no way for parties to hold each other accountable for breaking their word. My most recent, one of my more recent videos talked about black ash and the endangered species being under threat due to weakened environmental legislation in Ontario. And you can't have good forest if you're not listening to the science and protecting the species that live in the forest. That doesn't make any sense to me. And that's one of the items that happened last week. There was a few of them. There was one about phasing out foreign investment in fossil fuels, and methane emissions, which I'll dive deeper into. There's also like a bunch of videos that the public can watch, diving deeper into these issues from the United Nations and the climate conference COP26 itself. Anyways, I hope that you have a good day, and I'll post another video. I'll post another video.